All right, folks, God bless you guys, and welcome to This Is It 4321. Let's go. Okay, guys, prelude. I'm going to show you this before I just pull the rock out of the edge of the cliff where the whole thing just comes rolling down. Y'all ready to freak out? Okay, I'm going to show you a language. The Lord has taught me this language. It's called the language of angels. You may or may not believe that. However, the record will speak for itself. I've shown you guys, as a simple example, Detective Spooner in the movie I, Robot. His badge number is 4084. When the Lord was teaching me this language, he told me it's all around you everywhere. Just listen to me. Look up 4084 in the Bible. So it's like having a little Orphan Annie decoder ring. So if you type in Strong's 4084, the word for that in the Bible in the Greek form is I apprehend, catch, and arrest. So that's what the word 4084, I can tell you the meaning of the word real quick, or the way to pronounce it very quickly. So you see very quickly, there's Detective Spooner. His badge number is 4084. But here it is, 4084, the way they work, 4084. Please read these words. To lay hold of, to take, to capture, to take, to apprehend a man in order to imprison him. To apprehend a man in order to imprison him. It means to lay hold of, to take, to apprehend, catch, and arrest. See it right there? So that is the word piazzo, which is badge number 4084 for a detective. Now, when the Lord was teaching me this language, it's called the language of angels. It's in 1 Corinthians 13. I'm going to show it to you in the upcoming video, probably maybe enough times for you to go, wow, this guy actually knows a language that's not a normal language. You'll be going like, okay, I get it. Now, this is what I need to show you right now. I'm going to show you the short little video. I need to establish something right now, and then I'm going to come back and show you what the Lord showed me using that language to just show you what's coming. Anyway, just watch. You'll see. Okay, here you go. You ready? Let's read this word derangement. Derangement. It means disruptions, disturbances, dislocation, upsets, upheavals, convulsions, revolutions, unsettlements. So the word derangement right here means disorder, confusion, muddle, disarray, irregularity. It's defined as a state of being mentally ill and unable to think or act in a controlled way. It means mad. See, like mad, like you've gone mad, crazy, distracted, frantic, frenzied, irrational. Very important, irrational, mad, crazed, demented, unbalanced. And there's a whole host of synonyms for the word deranged. And now, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I've noticed in society, I'm running into a lot more people that are deranged. And their behavior is just wacky. Now, let's watch a short little video clip because, again, I want you to understand what I'm going to show you. I want your jaw to unhinge by the end of this video. And I want you to pick your jaw up, and then I'm going to show you after this video, another video, and we're going to move into where we're at on the world timeline. You got to just see it. Here you go. Ready? So derangement. Okay, you saw it: mad, crazy, distracted, frantic, irrational, maddened, crazed, demented, unbalanced. Okay, let's watch this little 3-minute clip.
Push Trump critics over the edge in their disdain for the president's behavior.
Slobbering servility, supine puppy.
And such disdain has triggered a counterattack.
Trump derangement syndrome has officially come to the Senate.
Well, actually, it's been everywhere else.
Full-blown Trump derangement syndrome?
Trump derangement syndrome has become a thing.
Now, I've never heard of Trump derangement syndrome. I'm not a doctor, but...
You don't need a degree in psychiatry to make the diagnosis.
Trump derangement syndrome hatred of Donald Trump so intense that it impairs people's judgment.
I'm going to pause that there. We're going to go back and we're going to look at it. I want to read something real. So remember I showed you irrational behavior, mindless actions, lack of sense right here, which easily degenerates into a state of extreme anger and suggests an incapacity to use one's mind. Now I'm going to say this again. It's from a root word called anoia, and it means no, and noús, which means no mind. So from no mind, and it means properly no mind, referring to irrational behavior, mindless actions, lack of sense, which easily degenerates into a state of extreme anger, and it suggests an incapacity to use one's mind, extreme fury, great rage, and anger. Now let's go back. Okay, let's watch this.
I'm not a doctor, but
You don't need a degree in psychiatry to make the diagnosis.
Trump derangement syndrome. Hatred of Donald Trump so intense that it impairs people's judgment.
The president himself is citing TDS. On The View, Judge Jeanine Pirro pointed at Whoopi, saying she had it.
Did you just point at me?
Yes.
Listen, I don't have Trump derangement. You know what's horrible? When the president of the United States whips up people.
It took a commercial break to calm her down.
Here's a new one bound for the DSM, Trump derangement syndrome. It's a particularly insidious illness because it doesn't merely affect individuals, but entire political parties, rendering them unrecognizable.
I think Donald Trump is a fascist. I think everything he stands for is disgusting.
That is pure racism. And the president is cynically using that racism to appeal to his base.
That is not what you see in a democracy. That is exactly what you see in authoritarian regimes.
They dare me to say impeach him. Today I say impeach 45.
Speaking of hysteria, Maxine Waters, of course, did not stop there. She urged her followers to hunt down and harass anybody tied to the Trump administration. This is all rage by proxy, of course. They'd like to hurt Trump himself, but he's not around, so they attack his employees and supporters. And in the absence of any of those, a star on the sidewalk with his name on it. Watch this.
Okay, so now you guys kind of get the idea. So derangement means it's a state of being mentally ill and unable to think or act in a controlled way. Symptoms for deranged include mad, crazy, distracted, frantic, like Whoopi Goldberg, frenzied, like Whoopi Goldberg, irrational, like the prosecutors you see bringing charges on somebody that no one can see that he defrauded anyone or committed any crime. Now, I want to state for the record, I'm not some pro-Trump guy. I'm just showing you what I'm about to show you. I told you the Lord lets me speak a very unique language now. Y'all ready? Irrational. It says right here, derangement syndrome. It's irrational, maddened, mad, crazy. Irrational behavior, mindless actions, lack of sense. Correct? Did we just see that? It's a yes or no. It's just a yes or no.
Instead, their only remaining principle is hatred of the president. If Trump supports something, they're against it. If he's against it, they're huge fans, no matter what it is.
Trump derangement syndrome has people believing that Donald Trump is Hitler. Just a few minutes ago on this program, you had several people who thought he was Hitler.
Right.
You have intellectuals with Trump derangement syndrome writing in important newspapers and other publications that Donald Trump will jeopardize American democracy and actually jeopardize American civilization. On college campuses, you had snowflakes with Trump derangement syndrome who, after he won, held a cry-in at one university.
Donald J. Trump is now President of the United States.
Okay, so let's take a look at that now. Let's just be honest. Okay, that is mad, crazed, distracted, frantic, frenzied, irrational, mad, and crazed behavior. Yes, it is. It is irrational behavior, mindless actions. Yes, lack of sense. Yes, which is easily degenerates into a state of extreme anger and suggests an incapacity to use one's mind, extreme fury, great rage. That's where it's all going. Now, y'all ready? Let me explain something to you. Y'all remember the resist Donald Trump stickers? The T is upside down. So who does that suggest if you're putting out all these stickers that say resist, the T is upside down? See, they're against anyone that may be convertible. I don't believe Donald Trump is converted. I don't. I'm just going to be honest. I've listened to him. He doesn't, but he is a moral man. I will give him that. However, if you're someone that can be converted and there's a right side up you and there's an upside down you, do you think the double downers would want you running the show that they exist in? The double downers being the serpent race. Do you think they would want you in control of anything? No, they'd probably freak out of their minds, wouldn't they? Let me show you something. See the resist Trump right there? See that? Let me show you something. They set a bond for something that wasn't even, there was no crime, there was no one defrauded, no one lost any money. As a matter of fact, all the banks that did business with Donald Trump made money, and they were very happy with the deal they made with him. But this lunatic guy that wants to serve his own interests, and I'll show you, remember there's red team, blue team. Red represents Adam, blue represents the serpent. Now, I want to show you something very fascinating. Ready? So, Trump approaches deadline to secure $454 million bond. Well, y'all know that $454 million is probably out of line for anything, right? Well, did you know I'm reading the language the Lord taught me? The reason it's 454 million is 454 is the word I just showed you. They were filled with rage, and the progress for their folly will be obvious. It's talking about in these scriptures, those that are haters of Christ, haters of his followers. So in the scriptures, Luke 11, 2 Timothy 6, or 2 Timothy 3:9 is asserting to those that hate our master. But look at this. Ánoia, 454 million. See right there. There's the amount of his bond, 454. And it means properly no mind, referring to irrational behavior, mindless actions, lack of sense, which is easily degenerates into a state of extreme anger that suggests an incapacity to use one's mind. Well,
Tisha James is seeking hundreds of millions of dollars in fines, which threatens his involvement in New York's real estate industry.
She's seeking $454 million. She's lost her mind. See, irrational behavior, mindless, no mind, mindless actions due to fury and anger and rage. Now, I want to show you the judge, a little clip from the judge that thinks he's so special that he can miscarry justice the way he does. I hope the same applies to him in everything in his life, because you reap what you sow. Now, watch this. Okay, now here's Trump talking about the nonsense, which it is. It's pure nonsense. I mean, can you imagine you were being treated like this, where so they were trying to create a crime that you had committed when there was no victim? No one got defrauded from anything. They're saying based on their calculations, you amped up the value of your property, when there's sophisticated banks that say we did our own due diligence and we determined that the value that he said was easily correct for us to give him the loans. So that's what this is all about. And Letitia James saying, oh no, you lied about the value of your property, and so we're suing you now. I mean, it's insane. It's derangement. But watch. Red team, blue team. You want to see red team, blue team manifest right now? Remember, the amount was 454 was the bond. 454 million. It literally means to lose one's mind, to be out of your mind, to have lost your mind. That's what it means. Now watch this.
What's going to happen? November 5th, I believe, will be the most important day in the history of our country. We'll get these people out of there.
Juries get it wrong a lot. That's my own opinion.
Now, I want you to listen to the arrogance, the disgusting arrogance of this person that's in front of you. This is sickening. This is a sick man. This is a mentally ill man right here. Can you imagine him presiding over you? This is a mentally ill person right here. Watch.
I do only civil trials, personal injury cases, contract disputes. But I've had situations where, like, oh my heaven's sake, how could they have thought that? Well, I have a tool that I can deal with that. It's called judgment notwithstanding the verdict. I can say there is no possible way that a reasonable jury would have reached that conclusion.
That's not entirely accurate.
And all right, am I following the law or am I making law?
So I want you to hear what this guy bases his, well, I'm going to overrule what I think normal people might think because. Now listen to his reason. You want to freak out? You want to see how the serpent race, the blue race, we'll call them the blue ones. The blue ones have lost their mind. Watch.
Am I following the law or am I making law? Okay, I'm following law. I'm an impartial referee, but it's hard to factor out my own emotions. And I have tools. Somebody can say, well, Your Honor, you have to throw out this case because it's just like another case.
What?
Well, is it just like another case? What if the defendant was wearing a red sweater instead of a blue sweater?
What if the defendant was wearing a red sweater instead of a blue sweater? Now think about the bond that was set, $454 million. The Lord's turned them over to their own lost minds. He's turned them over to their, it says he will turn you over. The scriptures say he will turn you over to a depraved mind. If that's what you seek, that's what you'll get. And that's what these guys are getting. This is kind of a funny clip from...
What did you just say?
Oh, and by the way, I worked for the Columbia Daily Spectator for a couple of weeks. What happened was I went there every day and I wrote a few stories. One I got criticized on because I wrote that some Ku Klux Klanners had murdered some people, and then I was told, you can't say that. How do we know? You weren't there. Well, that was what everybody thought.
The fuck?
Anyway, yeah, we should have absolute immunity. What if we defame somebody? That's how it usually comes up. You know, you call somebody a murderer or a heroin addict. That's
okay, so anyway, this guy's a lunatic, and he just said, what if someone's wearing a red sweater instead of a blue sweater?
Factor out my own emotions. And I have tools. Somebody can say, well, Your Honor, you have to throw out this case because it's just like another case.
Okay. Well, if you're the lawyer and you say, Your Honor, you can't prosecute this case because this is identical to this other case that was not prosecuted. Then he says, well, what if he was wearing a red sweater, like, you know, all of us that have been inverted, instead of a blue sweater, like the serpent race? Look at what he said. Okay, here we go. Watch.
Well, is it just like another case? What if the defendant was wearing a red sweater instead of a blue sweater?
What did you just say?
Oh. Like another case? What if the defendant was wearing a red sweater instead of a blue sweater?
And this is the guy with Letitia James that said a $454 million bond when there was no victim. Now, let's look at that one more time. Derangement is defined as a state of being mentally ill and unable to think or act in a controlled way. Symptoms for deranged include mad, crazy, distracted, frantic, frenzied, irrational, maddened, crazed, demented, and unbalanced. Now, I have an honest question for you. Do you believe that man to be any of those? I believe him to be all of those. He just proved it. You don't say, is this case the same as another? Well, what if he's wearing a red sweater instead of a blue sweater? He's mentally ill. He's deranged. He's irrational. He's lost his freaking mind. So they implemented a $454 million, which means no mind, referring to irrational behavior, mindless actions, lack of sense, which easily degenerates into a state of extreme anger that suggests an incapacity to use one's mind, fury, great rage. Okay, there you have it, folks. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to let you guys sit with this for a minute. Now, I'm going to, so just without being too mystical and kung fu, I'm just going to tell you, the Lord has impressed upon me. Now it's time to show y'all the language that he's taught me, and we're going to apply it in a couple situations that have just happened in order to understand where it looks like everything's going now. And I'm just going to share with you what he gives me, no different than I just shared with you what he showed me about the bond and how society and those that hate the Lord are losing their mind. Now, you think, and when I say the Lord, see, this hatred for Trump, they have a hatred for morality, for doing the right thing, because they're all a bunch of snakes. Now, I love you in Christ, and if you're like, oh, Trump's this, I don't care about Trump. I'm not talking about Trump. I'm talking about there's a system between good and evil hates good, and they've inverted it. That's why they inverted the T on the Trump logos, because they don't want anyone telling them what to do, because unless you're one of them, you're not in the evil boys club, so to speak. They don't want you telling them what to do. That's why resist, R-E-S-I-S, the T is upside down. That's why they did logos of his face where there's a shadow over half of his face, because they hate the guy so bad, because he represents someone that didn't sell out like all of them. Maybe. Now, I know a lot of you guys are going to go, oh, Trump's one of them. Now, remember, I'm not talking about that Trump's not taken by the enemy. That's not what I'm saying. He represents the opposite of the down system, so they hate it. Because if you take pure evil, what does pure evil do? Well, they lie. They make up fake stories like Russian collusion. Hillary Clinton said if Trump gets elected, we'll all hang. Why would Hillary Clinton say that? Why would y'all all hang, Hillary? What did y'all do to hang? Remember when Donna Brazile was behind the curtain, Matt Lauer interviewed her and said, what about the emails? See, all these people that are being covered up for by the Justice Department and by the evil cabal, they're all part of the same club. Well, Trump's not part of that club. So they hate him with a vengeance, and they've lost their minds. Hence the $454 million bond. So I'm just showing you the spiritual world. So don't everybody, oh, I can't believe you love Trump. I don't. I feel sorry for him that he's really trying to make a difference. It's obviously he cares about the people, and you can tell that the Democratic side, go look at their cities. They don't give a shit about their people. That's why they let them live in their own feces. Nancy Pelosi, I'm talking to you. Yeah, the stuff that these people do is some pretty evil stuff. So it is what it is. And if you think you're special because you went to the Vatican to get special communion, you walked inside of a snake and you had the head snake guy put a wafer on your tongue that represents, they call it what, a metatiosis, the actual turning of that into flesh, which is cannibalism, just for the record. Just saying. Okay. Freak out. There it is. All right. 454 was the point of showing you all this. That's what they set the bond at. That's not possible. 454 million. I'll just make sure we prove it one more time on the screen so it's not arguable, because there is a language and the Lord has taught it to me. And there it is. 454. So that's an insane bond. It's not reasonable. There's nothing lawful about it. But because the blue team like Erdogan or whatever his name is, Well, what if he's wearing a red sweater instead of a blue sweater? Then I could rule against him because we're the ones that run the show here. Like the movie They Live. We're them. Y'all get it? Okay. All right. Love you guys.